Well, we're on our way to Delaware, and Amy, the co-pilot's now. She's not the co-pilot; she's the pilot right now. Again, she's the pilot, and we had a little bit going on this morning. We had one horse to qualify. We had 6 to school, and seven to school. And not only was the car loud, now we're on pavement that's all ripped up, so that's good. So we had 7 to school, 1 to qualify, and then obviously we raced last night. We'll get last night out of the way. I had sent emails out, but I'd like to address it. Obviously, Spirit of Dio was absolutely fantastic. Exactly, you couldn't go out looking any better than she did in 2019, and I was very thrilled with the way she raced and the tenacity and when she did it. I knew maybe just past the half that she was going to give them all they wanted. Halfway down the lane, she just steamrolled the victory. Just a great filly, raced fantastic. But did it, for those of you that watched all year, this was the first time she actually won off cover, right? Before we had talked about how she gets the cover and she stalls. If you watch the race, I kept her in an attacking position, so she stayed at it, and then as soon as I moved her, she was gone, and she raced great. I thought Beach Boutique raced fantastic in the first race. Second race, no complaints from anybody, but obviously there would be people saying, hey, she finished 7th or 8th or whatever, but paced her last half 56, and that was her first start back at Mohawk in quite a while. I thought she raced great. I think 2 starts, and this filly's ready to pace 53, 54, maybe. I was very happy with what I saw from her, and then don't believe me, just watch. Obviously, I did read the board last night. The consensus on the board was I drove him too hard. Well, to be very clear, it's an 11-horse field. We're driving the second favorite, so I want to stay close to the favorite. I don't want to get away 6th when the 7 and 8 are the horses to beat, and they're getting away 1st and 2nd. I can see what's taking place leaving the gate. And, sure, I was parked in the 2-wide path behind Phil Houdon, the quarter and 27, cleared to the lead, but then Phil Houdon removed to the front, so it's not like we got this extraordinarily tough, difficult trip and everybody else got an easy one. Phil's horse won the race and raced tough. No doubt there was something going on with Don't Believe Me, Just Watch. Maybe I did drive him hard. Maybe he's going to be a trip colt. You get away 6th and see if you can fish your way out, fine. But Sylvain won with him first over in 53. And I think, the way he stopped, as it was put by one of our clients, the way he stopped obviously was out of form and out of character. We scoped him after. There was no amounts of mucus. There was some redness, some pimples, and no redness on his palate. The reason I say that is I thought that maybe when I grabbed him to let Phil remove, that maybe I shut his air off a bit. I didn't think I did. He didn't act like I did. Sometimes you'll see horses root their head as they're looking for their air a little bit. I didn't feel that I did, but the way he let go would lead me to believe as a driver that that's actually what took place. We were drawing his blood today to see what it looked like. I haven't got the results back yet, but I would like to see at high AST, something definitive that would lead us to believe this is why he raced bad. If he raced bad simply because I drove him tough, then obviously we're going to have to try and sneak him into a race in the semifinals, but I just don't see that. I mean, this is a colt that raced so incredibly tough in both his first and second start. We've been pretty gentle with him all year as far as his schedule, and then to say that, because of the way I raced him last night, he walked, I don't believe so. I know somebody had said he's not a train. That's a horse race. He's one of the leading colts in Ontario in the OSS. He's taken a mark of 53. When you have to leave in position, when you have to leave for position out of the 4-hole and push to the front, half in 55 and 1, a mile in 53, I'm sorry, that's just horse racing. And this isn't a colt that was 80 to 1. It's a colt that was a clear second choice, I believe, on both in the program from my standpoint and in the race. The horse that won it went a tougher trip than he did, and one was first and one was last. So, and if it is just the trip, well, that's easily fixed. Duck him leaving the gate and try and be third over, or try and drag him up into the race, I suppose. But I'm not sold on it completely being the trip. If he had been a beaten 6th, I'd say, yeah, it was a trip. He was a horrible 11th. So, I'm not sold on that. Anyway, the good thing about him is he's tough. He'll bounce back. and he'll be in the semifinals next week. Today, woke up, went with some horses. Johan acted up today and then cut his foot. Little too sharp, old Johan, especially in a season when all the vet scalpels are nice and sharp. He's been a little too sharp for me today. Broke a harness. I went to jog him for the first time, and he's just being ornery and crazy, which isn't necessarily bad, but when you start breaking things, then it is. So he'd want to be very, very behaved over the next week. He cut his foot, needed some stitches in, a couple of stitches in it. Not a big deal. He's off anyway. We were just going to start him jogging and walking, and instead he wanted to lay down. It's not the end of the world. Everybody else was pretty good. Horse, I'll get to him in a second. Another horse that really impressed me today. There he is. So we went to the qualifiers. I got there in time to qualify. My boy, Road Tripper, my God, he was sound. He was good. We had schooled him in 2 minutes. He went a mile 57 today. That was a good mile. For those of you really meticulous people, you'll notice we took him off Lasix. Reason being very simple. If we ever wanted to sell Road Tripper in Europe, he'd have to have no hobbles, still be a stud, and not be on Lasix for the most part. He doesn't wear hobbles. He is a stud. The Lasix part, we put him on at the start of last year in the middle of the winter when he bled a little bit, and we thought that maybe he'd sprung a leak. He had lots of time off. I think it's very manageable. We scoped him today. There was no blood there, so not an issue in that regard. Then we went to the schoolers. Schooled Big Homer today, 5-run homer, first time out of diapers, so to speak, first time out of PEI. He went a mile 56 and 3, a little tired at the end, but obviously he's going to be tired at the end. He's never gone that speed before. So I think I mentioned to Kevin, we'll need one more schooler, I think. I was hoping we could put him in. I don't want to race him at Flamborough or Grand River. It's a big colt. We have him primed to race at Mohawk. So let's school him next week, back him back a little bit, 58, and then race him easy a couple of starts and see if we can get his Mohawk legs underneath him. He's going to have pace 54, so it's going to take a couple of weeks to do that. We'll school him next week, and then we'll reevaluate. If I don't like how he looks next week, then we will take him to Flamborough or Flamborough Grand River. I certainly don't have an issue with that. He raced on a half-mile track his whole life. Then we went to the second schooler. We had 2 of our trotters in. Casanova's Jewel went a mile in 2 minutes, but he was still a little bumpy. We made some shoeing changes. I don't see any difference, so we'll make another couple of shoeing changes, or another change on him this week, and we'll either qualify him or school him next week. He's there, he's ready, but I'd like to see him a little more confident. He was running out a little bit in the straightaways, running into the turns, brushing his inside knee. I didn't like to see any of those 3, so we'll see how he is next week. I think we could probably put him into qualified, although he's going to need probably one schooler after. Classic Con schooled in 2-1. Now, Mario and I and a couple of the owners had a pretty long conversation about this colt afterwards. The reason we didn't put him back into qualify is because we thought if he's only going to trot 31 seconds on the end of it, you're probably demeaning the horse. You're reducing his value on spec, on how you would look at the horse, looking at his line 2, 2, and 3, 31 seconds. Not very interesting there. So we schooled him today, 2-1. He still looks frail, because he is. And this is a colt that probably needs to be turned out, to be honest. I know a lot of clients don't want to hear that. They've been waiting for Classic Con. When's he going to race? When's he getting in? But truthfully speaking, probably should turn him out. He's narrow in the shoulder still. His barrel still needs to put some muscle. So he needs to put muscle and weight on. He needs to mature. And he can't do it on the track. So he could, I suppose, but we're going to race him, to try and pick up pieces on a B track. He trotted 3 seconds slower than the maiden will go on a mediocre night at Mohawk. So, we have options. Take him to the B tracks, which I don't really want to do because I think he does have talent. I think he's got a bright future, but his bright future is in the future. It's not right now, so I'm putting it out there right now. I would like to turn Classic Con out, maybe school him once more, just to get a little more experience into him, and then turn him out for a month and a half or so, and let him try and fill out. A horse that was ultra impressive, and there's going to be a lot of people happy to hear this. Totally tacked her. Now, we all know I bought the new hobbles, right? Bought new hobbles, sick and tired of the break-in. So, the way these, I don't have one with me, the way the pulley is, the leather shop, Burris Salary, has to take the pin out of the middle and replace it with a bolt that can support the strap. Now you put a thing on the bottom of the bolt, no big deal, right? That pin, the nut must not have been very secure. It fell off, and the pin pulled out, and the pulley pulled right away today. Everything was fine, just it was the way they assembled the pulley, and it fell off going by the quarter. So the strap and the housing of the pulley are dragging behind me, like some sort of hillbilly commercial, and the hobbles are on his legs, but there's nothing holding them. He's trotting away, 1, 2, 3, 4, never missed a beat. I move him out into the middle of the track. I'm trying to assess the situation. Is he going to fall down? Is he going to catch that rope? Maybe all right. I reach back and I pull the strap up and I sit on it and I let him trot down the back stretch. I drop him back in the 4-hole. He never made a break. Dropped him back in the 4-hole around the last turn. He catches up to them. We go a mile in 2-1. Come half in like 58 and a piece. Had the hobbles not broke, he probably would have trotted 58. So he's lucky he didn't. This is going to be a nice colt. He had a great attitude day. This is a colt that we got. He was thin because he was acting up because he was a stud, much like Johan. And we castrated him. And right away, the people that worked at Per Engblom's, and even Per, I think, would tell you he needed to be castrated. But he was a stud. He was built to be a stud. He was bred to be a stud. This is a brother to Ariana G by Trixton. But we did what was right for the horse and us. We bought a really good maiden horse. 2-1 last half, 58. He's ready to trot in about 57 next week. We'll qualify him next week in 2 minutes under wraps, school him in 58, and then put him into going to maiden. Very, very impressed with Totally Tactor today. Now, got some other bad news. We went to school, knockdown, drag out. I warmed her up. And Mario told me yesterday, I asked him how she'd been, because we had vet work done on the filly, right? We had her coffin joints done and her ankles done. The vet was certain this was the spot. And it's not that the vet's inept. Melissa McKee's a very smart veterinarian, probably one of the better vets around. The vets that we use are all very good. Chris, Melissa, and Dan over at McMaster's at the clinic, even John Hennessy, sometimes they're smart people. And Melissa was certain that the spots on this filly were her feet and her ankles. I warmed her up today. She was 0% better. Now, it wasn't that she was horrible. It's that she's putting these little steps in. Just a little mild discomfort. Not lameness, not hanging on a line or a pole or anything like that. Just unsure and not confident. Which is the opposite of how this filly should be, given the summer she's had. So I'm frustrated. We made shoeing changes. 2 now. We had her to a vet. Went all over her. The vet said it was her feet and her ankles. Warmed her up and she's no better. So I said, you know what? Put the hobbles on her. We put the hobbles on her and took her over. She never wore hobbles in her life, and man, oh man, was she angry. She did not want to do anything at Mohawk, but I still come back to what I said about the warm-up. She's no better. So I had made a couple of calls, a couple of you, your partners, on knockdown, drag out, and I told them, I said, hey, this is the situation. Now, step back for a minute. The problem you will find with a horse like knockdown, drag out is when a vet can't find it, shoeing doesn't help, painting her, taking care of her, tubbing her, none of this helps. The problem we could have is very simple. There could be something that the vet can't find. It's not showing up cleanly and sufficiently on an x-ray or a fluoroscope. And what happens is you keep trying to turn over stones and turn over stones and turn over stones and train her and get her right. Next thing you know, she broke a bone. She broke a bone, and then, oh, that must have been bothering her forever. Then it becomes evident. But now, of course, got a broken bone. So you don't want to get that. For those of you saying, did she break a bone? No, she didn't. What I'm telling you is, if we continue to push when vet work does no better, shoeing does no better, it's likely maturity. There's likely some sore spots on the filly, same as 85% of the rest of the 2-year-olds this time of year. She's been telling us for a little while to turn her out. Now, there's some people out there that have mentioned turning her out. This isn't an I told you so moment, right? That isn't what this is. My job as a trainer is to try and help the horses become the best they can. Knockdown Drago doesn't appear tired to me. She's not lame, but she's not right. So my job is to make sure that we we look under every stone. We make sure that we've checked everything out. And if it's not all right, You have to step back and say, okay, this is a living, breathing horse that can't talk. A veterinarian can't find it. 2 vets, actually. It's one of the states. At least 2. 2 vets can't find it. Blacksmith can't help her. I can't put my finger on it. And it's the same all the time. So I'm suggesting there's a spot or 2 that is there, that is not being found, but it's likely linked to maturity. So the best thing to do for knockdown drag out is to simply turn her out. She wasn't ready to be turned out 2 weeks ago. I couldn't just turn her out because she was angry. It doesn't work that way. But what I saw today was a filly that was frustrated and was angry. But most importantly, this is very important, she was no better. No better with the vet work, no better with the shoeing changes, no worse, but no better. I'd say there's a couple of spots bothering her. Best thing to do is simply just turn her out. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to turn out, knockdown, drag out. And obviously there's a lot to talk about and unpack in this situation. Hey, you. Hey, you. Be quiet back there. Turkey. There's a lot to unpack and a lot to talk about with this situation, because somebody had said, one of your partners had said, why don't we send her to Florida for the winter? I'm not a big fan of going to Florida just to go to Florida. Everybody thinks you go to Florida and all the horses become great. I don't get that. You know, and as far as their feet being sore, yeah, there's some merit in that. But the way to deal with sore feet also, there has to be concussion, there has to be strengthening of the feet, and doing that in a soft track in Florida may not help her. A lot of the horses that come back and injure themselves are in Florida. You know, they're in a softer climate. Then they come here, you know, it's a lot more rigorous, a lot more strenuous, a lot more concussive, and horses injure themselves. So I think that's something we can mull over also. Now Andrew is not in Florida, so if we are going to send her to Florida, I think we should turn her out in Ohio at Winterwood Farms for 3 months. If we're going to send her to Florida, we need to pick a trainer that we're going to use next year. This is a filly that we expect, I still fully expect, is going to be a Sire Stakes contender at minimum. At most, she could be a Grand Circuit filly. So we need to pick a trainer that will maybe take the filly over in Florida, train her down, get familiar with her, because she is quirky. So who will that be? I know that John Bouchane's in Florida all the time. There's a number of people in Florida and in nice places all winter long. I'm not going to put any names for it. I said John, but I'm not going to put any names for it just yet, because I want to think about it also, and I want everybody to have an opportunity to speak. So that's the situation on Knockdown Dragout. She is done for 2019. She is going to be going to the field very soon. I can't tell if she likes that idea or not. But then shortly after that, I think we could send her to Florida or bring her home. I'm actually leaning towards Florida for a number of reasons. So that's something for you to mull over. The people out there that own Knockdown Dragout, the Knockdown Dragout group, what do you think? I'm open to any suggestions at this point, as long as they don't have anything to do with racing her in 2019, because she is done for the year. Who else went? Final Answer. Final Answer made his debut. It's been over a year, I think, since he raced her. Close to a year since he raced, and he's dealt with a lot of issues. We have him in the pool. He was running in on Jody today, but this is a colt that this is his first fast mile of the last calendar year, and probably a little ring rust